Peter. Peter who?
Peter Pan.
Peter. Behave. What?
We now have quorum, and I call this regular meeting for the Town of Pelham Committee of the Whole to order for March 3rd. It has been moved by Councillor Lane, seconded by Councillor Kersey, that the agenda for the March 3rd regular meeting of Committee of the Whole be adopted. Any changes to the agenda? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next item is disclosure of pecuniary interest. That is any conflicts of interest. Do any members have any conflicts of interest they need to disclose at this time? Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a conflict with 5.2.1. A property owned by my wife abuts on the property in question in the report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any others? Can that be so noted, Madam Clerk? Thank you. The next item is department reports. The first is from Corporate Services. And it has been moved by Councillor Kersey, second by Councillor Lane, that the issue sheet regarding the 2014 water and wastewater budget presentation be received, and that Committee of the Whole recommend to Council that the 2014 water and wastewater budgets be approved. Not very descriptive, Madam Treasurer, that is a 0% change from last year, so no increase from last year. Questions, comments from members of Council? Councillor Ribbiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the challenges that seems to be noted in several locations in the report is that a community that is successful in conserving water has difficulty then meeting the fixed cost portion of the overall cost, thereby forcing an increase in rates simply because of the success. I'm just wondering whether any thought has been given to any way around that conundrum. It seems to me that it's in our best interest to conserve water. If we introduce higher rates, we simply discourage that. Is there any other way that we could tackle it?
Madam Treasurer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. These are things that this issue has been something that we've been dealing with for quite some time. Last year was a very rainy season, so we had less consumption, volume consumption, but we were still able to maintain within our budget. The problem is if you do a too high of a fixed rate and go fixed rate, then they don't conserve anymore. They just start using the volumetric as much water as they want. So you try to keep it so that there is still that process where if you're conserving, it's to the good. If you're someone that's in a home, there's only 2 people, and you're not using a lot of water, you're not paying a lot for the water except that 25% fixed charge on it. This is on the water side only. The wastewater is a completely fixed amount that they charge us on a rolling 3-year average. So we did things like in 2 years ago, I believe it was, where we introduced the metering and the different levels of meters where bigger users would pay higher for their fixed rate charges and stuff like that. So we continue to do things that will assist with this. Decreasing our water loss allows us to have some buffer in the budget to make sure that we can still meet the budget targets. This year, with respect to the amount that we were putting into reserves, was causing our rates to go up as well, because at the point in time that a study was done in 2006, there was no reserves established. So based on the new study and discussions with the staff on how we are establishing reserves today, we were able to significantly reduce those reserves, which will allow us to maintain a lower rate overall for the next at least 5 years, we believe.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. More good news. Thank you. Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it is a challenge, and I can't imagine that we're going to solve any of that tonight. But I wonder whether, in just going forward, we might give that some thought. An appropriate way of rewarding people for conserving water that doesn't include an increase in their rates because they've been doing that.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Others? To the report, Councillor Kersey.
Basically, just a comment, Mr. Mayor. It's rather interesting when you look at the calculations and the impact of development on the development charge reserve. And it points out the importance of when you service an area, that area in fact develops and creates the cash flow will recharge that development reserve, because we are going forward with the projections that we've put into the calculations. We end up with deficits going forward, and it kind of says that that's why it's important to get that development online, get it serviced, and get the builders in there building and getting new families into our community, so that development charge reserve can be rebuilt for future developments.
Just a call.
Okay, thank you very much. Any others? Madam Treasurer, one of the things that's sort of outlined later on in the pages as I'm reading it is the impact and the positive impact of the change of the water meters. Can you just outline that a little bit more, please?
Yeah, through the study that we've done and the results of the water meter program that we've analyzed, the consumption had gone, or the water loss was originally 27%. It has gone down as low as 12%, based on what our adjustments can be with respect to knowing how much water a water main break will release. Those are all estimates, so at some point in time, we might have a little bit of a higher loss because we weren't able to estimate that properly. But we are billing a lot more accurately, obviously, with these new water meters. They are the smart meters. We are able to tell if there's a leak in the system and highlight that to the residents and so forth. So the process has really ratified and really made a huge difference in how we are billing and how much we're capturing of that billing. There's no longer the estimates that we used to have, and those estimates used to be 4 months up to 2 years of estimating a water, and then a lot of times you'd have to go back and adjust because you've very much overestimated that water consumption. So it has been one of the most significant impacts on why we're here today with a 0% increase for 2014.
That's great. That's great to hear. And a number of members of the community have asked, they know that we've kept the rates low. Any increases over the last number of years have been minimal. But they've said, you kind of touted and said when these meters were being changed, that there could be the savings that are here. So very pleased to see that, this is the year that some of those savings can be recovered, that we can give a no change, so that it's no increase or anything like that. And it's a good news to me that the ongoing support, just as Councillor Kersey indicated about the development and the growth potential and how that helps. Really, the other piece, as I see it, is the benefit of investing in infrastructure, investing in new technologies, and kind of leapfrogging from the old gallon meters that we had, and people having to come in here and sign, bring in these cards with their amount that was from their meter in their basement, into this system where a truck goes through the community, drives through, picks up all of the frequencies with a radio frequency, puts it into a computer, and then we can do things like check leaks and get back to people with an automated system. So I think I informed council that when we had that debate last fall at the region about the water system, it was said by the consultant hired by the region that Pelham has the best wastewater system in the region, and I think this is further proof of that, that we have this 0% increase, no change. So thank you very much for that. Councillor Durley, you signaled you want to comment as well. Go ahead, sir.
Perhaps a housekeeping thing, something just caught my eye. Appendix 4 on Table 13, the capital budget forecast. You reach down there, Merritt Road, it says from Station Street to Rice Road with an expenditure in 2015. I think that should be Line Avenue, because Station doesn't go there. It doesn't really matter much, but when we look at Merritt Road, Station Street is not a function of Merritt Road.
Okay, Madam Treasurer, can you correct that, please, when it goes to council?
Is that in the study?
Table 13, Appendix 4 for 5.1.1,
Okay.
the capital budget forecast.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. That will be corrected when it comes to council.
Good, yeah, no problem. It's a
Anything?
large expenditure.
Yeah. Anything further? There being none, I call the question on this good news wastewater budget. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Councillor Lane is smiling there at my comment. Thank you, Councillor.
You got your zero budget, right?
The next item has been moved by Councillor Papp, second by Councillor Lane. Committee of the Whole received the February 2014 Corporate Services Monthly Report for information. Any issues or questions, comments in that report from the Treasurer? Councillor Papp.
Just a quick one through you to the treasurer or the CEO. The pay equity review, are we doing that internally, or remember the last time we utilized staff from the region, HR, so are we doing that internally? I just want to be clear.
Mr. CEO?
Ms. Jane Coco is undertaking
Oh, okay, that answers
for
it.
us.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
That's good. Okay.
Any other questions, comments on the Treasurer's report? Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's worth noting that staff received an announcement that we notified that the Old Pelham Town Hall renovation was chosen as a success story by Fed Development Ontario. It's going to be highlighted and showcased on their website, and I think that will bring some attention to the town of Pelham. Well deserved. I think the decision that this council made to do all these renovations in 2014 rather than to space them out over years was a contributing factor to that, and I think that's a real success story that deserves to be highlighted and brought forward. Also,
Thank you, Councillor.
also in there, in the report is the staff recommendation to discontinue matching the donations toward the Isaac Real skate park project because it's virtually done. I think it's a good suggestion, and I think that really we should support this recommendation because for all intents and purposes the work is done, other than the landscaping and so on that will take place this spring. So I think that should duly be noted, and we should certainly discontinue the matching of the funds for that. And those are just two comments that came to my mind there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. Other council colleagues? Just one item here, Madam Treasurer, that hasn't been raised yet, and that is the statistics. I note, for instance, that the clerk in her report often puts the statistics and puts year-to-date, and I just wondered if it was your intention now that you've captured some great information here, that you could continue to do that and in future reports, capture it so that we would have it on a monthly basis in the same areas. So in some areas, staggering the number of invoices processed, et cetera. So very, very busy activity in the corporate services department that's handling all of those transactions. Total transactions processed 18,000 last year. So it might be interesting to have that in future reports and monitor it through the year. So thank you very much. Anything further from members of council? Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Councillor Accursi has declared a conflict of interest and has left the room on this item. It's been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor King. The Committee of the Whole recommend to Council that the request by Pelham Printing for the payment of $10,000 in lieu of paving the parking lot be denied. Questions, comments to that? Councillor Ribbiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had some questions with regard to this, and then perhaps a comment. The estimate of $26,900 indicated within the report as the repaving of that parking lot, is that an estimate that we asked for, or is that an estimate that was been provided by Pelham Printing, or?
Mr. Mantle?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that estimate was prepared by staff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we can accept that as a good number, most likely number for the repair of that.
Mr. Mantle, when was that estimate given, and was it at the time? I think if I can anticipate where the council is going, was it at the time of the agreement, or was it at the after that?
It was after that. It was when the request came to pave the parking lot.
There's a bit of history here. Maybe you can remind us of the history, Mr. Mantle?
I believe, and again, I wasn't part of those earlier discussions, some staff members made an informal arrangement to pave the parking lot for access purposes to the I guess during construction on Pelham Street as well as for the Summerfest activities. Project was completed, the Summerfest activity went forward, and I believe the owner came forward saying that he was, of Pelham Printing came forward looking for his parking lot to be paved. Staff reviewed it and found that there was not a stormwater outlet for the site, and since it's at a higher elevation, it would sheet off and end up in the neighbor's parking lot, and we've had other issues with stormwater runoff in the area, so we thought probably until there was a storm sewer outlet for the site, we would not venture into paving that parking lot. The owner of Pelham Printing it was recommended that he contact the region with respect to storm sewer construction on Highway 20, and see if he could have a service installed as part of that project. They found that his parking lot was lower than the storm sewer elevation, therefore the water would not flow uphill, and they could not service the lot. So now it stays unpaved, and he's made this request for $10,000 in lieu of the paving.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mantle. Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for clarity, my understanding, I think, is that it's not so much that we won't pave it, but that Pelham Printing would not be able to get a permit to pave it because it doesn't have an outlet for stormwater. In other words, if they were going to do this on their own initiative without any regard for money that we might make available, they still would not be able to do it. We wouldn't let them do it. Is that a fact?
Mr. Mantle?
I don't believe he would need a permit to pave the parking lot himself. We just didn't want to be part of the process of paving a parking lot and contributing to stormwater flooding onto the neighbor's property.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me just share with you my concern with regard to the motion. The motion is not to accept, in essence, an offer of settlement. Obviously, there's a view that an offer has been made to pave a parking lot up to a certain amount of money. Since we're not willing to do that, then obviously no money would be forthcoming, and that probably seems like a difficulty to Pelham Printing, because after all, they did in good faith provide access to the parking lot during the construction or reconstruction of Pelham Street. This was meant to be a quid pro quo. We've had the quid, we obviously not getting the quo because we've established a standard that they cannot meet. And the settlement of $10,000 is meant to be in lieu of it, something less than the value of paving the parking lot, but, you know, really just to answer our side of the deal. And I can understand why we don't want to pave the parking lot, but I can also understand, I think, why the owner of Pelham Printing would be anxious to see something on our side in response to the goodwill and service that he'd provided. So I'm wondering, Mr. Mayor, whether it wouldn't be wise for us to demonstrate our willingness to pave that parking lot once he's put a storm sewer in, by setting aside that $26,900 into a suspense account of some kind. It's there in the event that he should ever meet the requirements and need the money, and if he sells the property, he can come back to us. But at least that way, there's a clear understanding that we're not taking this action because we're not willing to repay the individual for the good service and goodwill that he showed, but rather it's really a matter of these circumstances. This is my concern, is that this might cast us in a poor light that we really wouldn't deserve, because we fully intend to meet that obligation, but you know, it's all a matter of perception, and the perception might be a little negative.
Thank you, Councillor. I think another important fact that hasn't been said here tonight, but it is outlined in the report, is the council report CIS 3411 that discusses, so it says previous documents pertaining to this matter. My understanding of that particular report is that there's actually a council resolution that says we will pave the parking lot up to a certain amount if the storm sewer is installed. So I would suspect, and maybe we can get comment from staff, that's the resolution that's there. It isn't specifically earmarked funds into a special account that couldn't be used for anything else, but in essence, it has earmarked the funds, and we're awaiting a response from the individual. So, Mr. Mantle, is that what that report says, and maybe you can remind us of that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. I should have had it in the report just to identify that that was the direction previously, that as soon as if there was a storm sewer service outlet, if the owner could acquire an outlet, then we would pave the parking lot.
Okay.
So,
That makes a difference.
That makes a difference, okay. And maybe that can be circulated, I think. It would probably be helpful to circulate that report when this report comes to us at council. Thank you. Anything further at this moment, council?
No, that
Okay,
satisfies me.
thank you. Councilor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just that in following up on that, the cost of providing a storm sewer outlet there may be much more than the cost of paving, and I'm not an expert in this area, and I don't know what it would be. My indication of this, and just from what I'm understanding from the owner, as well as some other conversations that I've had, is the fact that he may have changed his mind, that he will not be paving this because of the certain conditions that are involved there, and that by changing his mind, he feels that some retribution for the good service in good faith that he has provided for the town. And certainly it was a big relief when the construction of Pelham Street was on to have that access there. If it wasn't for that, we would have had much more challenge than we actually did have. So I feel that if in fact he's changed his mind and no longer wants that paved, it's perhaps breaking the agreement, but at the same token, a show of goodwill from the town, I think, is in order, that we appreciate the fact that he has helped this community, and in fact, he has done this in goodwill. And in the binding, I'm wondering, there was nothing in writing from the original staff that made the agreement there, I don't think, but our resolution to pave it, under the condition of that, I think the original deal was there was no condition there because nobody was aware that this challenged topography was there. So, I think if in fact the request, and I see it as a request, we didn't offer anything, he's requesting 10,000 in lieu of that, I think that's reasonable, and I think we would be remiss if in fact we did not honor the good service that he gave to the town during that time and continues to do with the Summerfest. That's just my opinion. I think if he's requesting that and that will solve the situation for this particular time, he definitely won't come back to us later to say, no, you got to pave my lot. The case will be closed. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Others? Councilor Lane?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to ask the question to you, Mr. Mayor, is if the grade of this particular property is higher than all the grades around them, has there been any issues with flooding in that neighborhood now? And what is going to be the impact of paving versus the hard gravel lot that he has there now? The water has to go someplace currently.
Yeah.
I mean, I just
Mr.
don't-
Mantle?
through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe in our previous report, we identified that it's a pervious layer right now. It's stone. There's likely some room for saturation of any rain into that existing surface. If we paved it, it really has no place to go. We can't pond it on the site. It'd have to run off somewhere, probably to the lower lands, which would be the adjacent parking lot.
Councilor?
Yeah, if I might, may I continue on another line on this?
Of course,
question?
yeah.
And in response, picking up on what Councillor Durley said, that he feels that there should be some retribution. I might take a different approach in that maybe a retribution, instead of giving a person $10,000, is because he's a businessman in the town, possibly give him some business that would help to compensate. And I don't know if that can be done in the way we do business, but we certainly have a lot of printing done in this town. Why don't we give this person the opportunity to do some of that printing, and maybe that would help to alleviate some of this impact. Just a
Okay,
thought.
thank you. Are
Food
you
for
looking for a response from staff, or just let
thought.
that
I
float
threw it
there?
out there for now,
Okay,
for food
thank
for
you.
thought.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. Any others to this report? I guess my question, Mr. Mantle, just building on Councilor Lane's first question, because there was a store opening in that area on the weekend, and they were talking about their particular lot, and I know on Pelham Street, the barber in the area was flooded out this past year because of really water coming from another, well, I guess we couldn't figure out where the water was coming from. Staff couldn't figure that out, but it could have been from another property in that area. What's normally done, and I guess I'm surprised that as the region redeveloped the hill and put in that storm piece, that this wasn't part of that. And I think that's when this report was written, it was anticipated that the region would be doing the work, that they would tie in, and then it would be done. So, Mr. Mantle, just looking for, and maybe putting you on the spot, what other works can be done in this area to assist or to help facilitate others in the area? So we know that this property owner has a problem with stormwater. Potentially some others do as well, and they affect other properties. Just some comments or thoughts on that, Mr. Mantle?
It seems to be a problem that crops up with a lot of the urban development downtown. There's insufficient stormwater outlets for these sites. I know there's currently a development in the planning stages right now that he has similar issues. Where is the stormwater to go? And he has a restricted outlet for that water to leave the site. So it becomes a matter of some sort of stormwater management and hiring the appropriate consultants to develop something for them. I know that, again, depending on the soil types, they can use dry well type systems, storage type systems, pump water. You know, there's various ways of doing it. It's just a matter of getting the appropriate consultant to deal with it for them, and not trying to plan it on their own.
But are you suggesting then that property owners in this area work together on the issue? Is that what I heard you say, as opposed to doing it on their own?
Yeah, I don't think it's so much doing it on their own or doing it as a group, but they need to look at those sort of things. That's why the town embarked on the Stormwater Master Servicing Plan to provide storm sewers throughout these areas, and the Highway 20 storm sewer is part of that, providing outlet for lands up on higher up on Canberra Road, that sort of thing. So it's all part of the master plan to deal with those, but you're always going to end up with these situations of small parcels that need to deal with their water somehow.
So at risk of continuing this a little further for another couple minutes, do you know what the master plan calls for in this particular area? And you know, has it been done or has it not been done?
Well, I don't have the master servicing plan with me, although it does identify storm sewers. It's just a matter of they can't deal with every instance of elevation change in parking lots. Like we checked that elevation ourselves to see if he'd be able to get to the storm sewer at the Pelham printing site, and we found that it wasn't. He wouldn't be able to do that. So again, there's going to be certain cases where you just can't deal with it, and there may be a need to work with an adjacent neighbor, to provide a capacity to store. There's storage tanks they use in some sites. You know, there's different avenues open to them.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mantle.
Welcome.
Yes, for council colleagues, the motion that's before us is really that it says that it be denied. What I'm hearing from some councillors is maybe this is sort of could be potentially a work in progress. So I don't know if some wording like at this time, kind of leaving the door open. This would be definitely closing the door. So I don't know if language to at this time, an amendment or something. I'm just reflecting on that maybe there's another opportunity there, and I guess knowledge that if this is approved, and I know some may vote against it, but if this is approved, then that other deal or that report is still active and alive. Councillor Ribbiak and then Councillor Durley.
Mr. Mayor, is there some opportunity to follow up on where you were going in terms of, rather than simply denying the 10,000, offering some assistance in helping design an appropriate stormwater management process? I'm not sure I'm talking about money necessarily, but at least some opportunity to resolve to get involved in resolving the underlying problem.
Sounds like a spot for creative problem solving. Councillor Durley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been going on for years, and I'm sure that the communication with the owner of this property has highlighted different potential solutions, and in fact, I'm not sure how the negotiations went, and I think if we could look at the history of that, it may help us. However, if at this particular point in time, the solution is, I'm not gonna put a parking lot in there, I'm not gonna pave it, give me $10,000 and it'll go away, because of the service that I give you in good faith, you know, and I think, like I say, the communication and the negotiation wasn't a spur of the moment thing. It's been going on for a long time. And in fact, if this is the recommended solution or the requested solution, perhaps that would just take the thing off the table and we wouldn't have to worry about anything at this particular time. And if in fact the stormwater management plan comes in with something later, then certainly that could be a plan B then. But this at least gets it off the table now, because in listening to Mr. Mantle, individual situations may not all be taken into account or solved when this master plan comes into effect. So, you know, in fact, I don't think we should deny this. I think we should look favorably on that or open up a negotiation. But in fact, I believe that negotiation has been going on for quite a while. I think that may be useless at this particular point in time. I'm not in favor of denying this.
Okay, thank you. Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I might recommend that council, rather than making a decision on this tonight, there seems to be a wide variety of opinions that they defer back to staff to look at the stormwater issue holistically and come back with maybe some recommendations on that. I think that it would be a wise idea for us to consider what options are available. Is it larger than a single property? You know, what do we think a reasonable cost would be? If we're talking about, I think that that information would be helpful in informing next steps on this. So I'd recommend that council take that action.
Okay, thank you. I see Councillor Papp nodding. Would you make that recommendation that we refer it back to staff to do a little bit more work on this? And Councillor?
I would give them direction to do a little bit more comprehensive investigation and come back to us with other viable solutions to this. Notwithstanding what Councillor Durley agreed, it's been going on for a while. Let's get it settled.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
To that, in terms of, go ahead, Councillor Lane.
Yeah,
Well, that's,
just in what I'm seeing and hearing, I don't believe this individual has an issue with drainage or water or anything else on his property, right? And that would only be an issue if in fact his property was paved. It would be an issue for someone else. So really all, as Councilor Durley says, he's only seeking restitution for a good deed that he did, nothing else, and I think that's what we should be addressing. Maybe we're going too deep with this other, maybe we're going in the wrong direction.
okay. If that's the case, then I think Councillor Papp put a motion to refer back to staff, then you can vote against the motion to refer back to staff, and then we'll entertain the motion that's was initially there, and then if that gets defeated, then we put another motion that we say we approve it. Okay, that's the way forward. So I'm going to call the question on the motion to refer to staff to see if there can be a little bit more of a solution.
Just
Councillor?
one thing, Mr. Mayor, if it is referred back to staff, I think that the owner of this property needs to be included in the communications of it. And this is essential, you know, especially, yes, we're gonna have some solutions, but he needs to know what's going on, and that's an important feature here. That's the
CEO?
function of this.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor, we'll certainly do that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call the question on the referral. All those in favor? Any opposed? That referral is carried. Thank you. Thank you. The next item has been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor King. The Committee of the Whole received the February 2014 Public Works and Utilities Report for information. Questions, comments? Councillor Papp?
Just quickly, thank you, Mr. Bano. The neighborhood traffic management program, that's the one that we've been over the years from Hay Street through to Effingham?
Correct.
That's the same, okay. That's what I thought it was. So you haven't formed the committee, you haven't,
Well, this is the, through Mr. Mayor, this is the, we have a policy with respect to
Right.
neighborhood, we create a group with, and there's 2 groups right at the moment, as you'll see in the
I see
report
that.
there. So this has been going on for, I think, a little over a year now, and
Yeah.
we've met with the committees, and we're working towards our resolutions right now.
okay, I'm satisfied, thank you.
Is there some timing on, Mr. Mantle, when you think that'll be coming forward?
I'm hoping into April.
Thank you. Others to that? Others to something else in the report, Councillor Durley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The third bullet under engineering in this report regarding Highland Avenue reconstruction. I was contacted by residents in that area, and there appears to be a bit of a misunderstanding in the fact that some people think that everything is complete. I tried to reassure them that it wasn't. It is still a work in progress. This report, and I think it has to be vetted to the public, the project is not complete. A new water main and a new storm sewer was put in because it was necessary, and there's no problem with that. But the road excavation will be completed. The asphalt top layer will be there. The driveway paving and the aprons will be done, and the boulevard siding. And if there is any individual, because one person that spoke to me said none of this was necessary. Why'd you even do it? And well, I think it was necessary because we don't do things if it's not necessary. But if there is anyone out there who has some concerns, could they contact Mr. Mantle, or who should they contact with if they do have an issue that is involving strictly their property? Could that be something zeroed in on? This may be important in a communication piece.
Mr. Mantle, that second question, and then also the rationale for the project initially?
Well, by all means, they could certainly give me a call. I think we actually distributed letters to everyone out there explaining the status of the project already. So I think that they're fully aware that work will start in the springtime again. The project was initiated due to there's an existing cast iron water main that needed to be replaced. It was old. It was identified for replacement. There was also stormwater problems at the cemetery end of the project. Water, again, similar to the Pelham printing issue, area urbanized, paved the parking lots, and there's no place for the water to go, so it's more or less ponded, and there's a dry well type system and a small outlet into the cemetery, which the water would pond there. I don't believe there was any flooding or actual property damage when it would flood, but again, it was not the current standard that we're looking for, so that's the reason behind the reconstruction.
Thank you. And residents on the section further north can anticipate some works as well this year.
Exactly. That's from Highland, or from Elizabeth Drive north to Canberra Road is the next phase.
Thank you. Councillor?
Apparently, some people missed the memo. This is very interesting to have this out, and rest assured that things will be corrected if there are some problems, and that's an important thing, because at least one of the people that I spoke to was quite irate. Actually, she was very upset about this, and this may help to soothe the situation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. Others to another area of the report. I had Councillor Ribbiak and then Councillor Papp. Councillor Ribbiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My comments are with regard to Fenwick revitalization. First of all, through you to thank Mr. Mantle for the very complete description of where we have been up till now in terms of preparing for the revitalization. I think that's really valuable information, and it gives us a sense that things are going along. But second, I wonder if I can ask, again through you, Mr. Mayor, that the estimated time of construction start might be included in that, and that we can keep that up to date as we go through. We all know that projects, the history of all projects is delay and cost. But if we could keep an eye on that, so that we can communicate that to those who will be most affected by it within Fenwick, I think it would be very useful. So a more specific date on that would be very useful, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Mantle.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have a date right now. All I can really confirm is that consultants tell us they're on track with the schedule. In addition, Hydro One's been touching base with the residents in the area that are affected by it, explaining the alternate servicing arrangements. Instead of being overhead, it'll be an underground service, and the implications that may have on their properties. They've spoke to, I believe, one of the business owners about an easement for a transformer, that sort of thing. So things are moving along kind of in the background also.
Thank you. Mr. Mallon, can you provide that to us by our next meeting in April, the schedule?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Terrific. And as time goes by, we can watch that in these reports and be able to make sure that people understand when it is that construction is actually going to start with some lead time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything further to the Fenwick revitalization at the moment from other councillors? Just wanted to update council that I had was part of a meeting with Ms. Van Ravensway and the CAO, members of the Fenwick Lions Club. One of the items that came up was the issue of the revitalization of downtown Fenwick and their concern about the parade and their question that if the works can start, whether they can start sort of in the east and work their way downhill as opposed to in the west and clog up Church Street. So I don't know if Mr. Mantle, if that can be accomplished. Maybe it's something to take under advisement as you move forward. Thank you, Mr. Mantle. They had asked that, and they may have to reroute their parade if we get into the ground in May or April, or when we can get into the ground on that. So that was their request. Thank you. Other items from, I had Councillor Papp.
I'll just quickly, through you, Mr. Manlon, just once again, congratulations on clearing the snow off the sidewalks. Just curious, those issues that you received, you don't have to elaborate, but what sort of issues would these be? What were they requesting? They didn't like the way it was plowed? I've heard nothing but accolades about this. It's not that it's being critical, but just curious what kind of.
So it's in part of your public service request
Public service
report?
report, snow clearing request for sidewalks, snow removal.
I'm not really familiar with them.
Okay.
It's likely just icy spots. I
Okay.
think the level of service that's expected is greater than we can provide.
That's what I was just
The
yeah.
plow on the trackless unit, it rides on shoes, so it doesn't
Right.
scrape all the snow off. So
Right.
that issue arises from time to time, and
Okay.
you're never going to get a job as good as you can do with a hand shovel.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mantle. Others? Councillor King.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just wondering, with regards to the neighborhood traffic management program, I know that there was a committee formed, and I can see in your report that there were advantages and disadvantages that were going to be considered, and staff was further researching it and so on and so forth. The Active Transportation Committee next meets on March the, I don't know if it's the 11th or the 17th now. Will there be further information with respect to that for that committee meeting?
Mr. Mantle?
Mr. Gibson sits on our neighborhood traffic management, both groups, and he can certainly provide you with an update. He's been very helpful with respect to his background with the Ministry of Transportation, so he can certainly give you an update on that. We can also
At the
provide
meeting?
if you need.
Okay.
Big thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor, anything further? I did have a question about the Port Robinson Road reconstruction, Station Street to Rice Road design drawings. So this is to complete the design, and any idea of, in terms of the timing of the PIC, is this a March initiative, or is this PIC, Public Information Center? Is this a March initiative or an April initiative, Mr. Mantle?
It's a March. I believe I was just emailing the consultant today, and I think we've established the 18th of March as the date.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Look forward to that and the response from the community. I know there was some interest when it was first indicated after the capital budget that was going to be going through, especially those folks that don't have sewers, and those sewers are going to be going in. So thank you very much for that. Anything further? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Mantle, for helping us answer our questions through that. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Durley. Committee of the Whole received the issue summary report regarding the Community Improvement Plan Commercial Building Facade Improvement Grant application CP 0114, and that staff be directed to prepare the necessary grant agreement and execution bylaw between the town and Fred and Mercedes Siebert for presentation of council on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. Discussion. Looks like a great plan moving forward. Councillor Kersey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'm very pleased to see yet another CIP app coming forward. In general, I think it'll be a nice improvement to the property. One area that I wanted to talk about or wondered whether there's been any discussion around, and that is the signage. It appears that the signage will be a backlit type signage similar to what's already there. I wondered if there'd been any discussion around going more to the types of signs where they're front lit with the gooseneck lighting to more reflect the type of look that was envisioned downtown.
Ms. Smythe?
Mr. Mayor, through to you. The signage is something we will be discussing next. The discussions primarily for this application was, the premise was mostly on the facade improvements, but the signage will likely happen next, and discussions with the chief building official.
See, okay, I just thought that signage was would be part of the facade improvement and was encompassed in the CIP documents to, if you were engaging in receiving some monies, that type of signage was to be encouraged. I mean, obviously, we can't force one way or the other, but.
That discussion, again, there is discussions that's going to be continued with the owner on the signage. It was brought up, but for the purposes for identifying with respect to the cost estimates for the facades, primarily the estimates was focused on the actual materials for the facade improvements themselves. Signage is likely going to happen probably next. Understanding its signage is included under the facade improvements. At the time of our discussions, that information was not made available to us at the moment. But there was, the applicant wanted, desire to actually move this project ahead and bring it forward to committee. So based on the request, that's kind of what's brought forward. But there will be continuous discussions with respect to signage and ensuring that there's consistency with respect to what else is located on the town, Pelham Street. Understanding too that there's the urban design guidelines. It's giving them a reference with respect to what we envision happening.
Councillor, anything further? Or
Well,
can we ask for maybe an update on the 17th when it
I
comes to
suppose so. I mean, if we approve this, we've approved the grant as is, and the sign, the backlit sign could go up there without any further ado.
Well,
Mr. CEO?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll check that out, and this does not approve it tonight. It's simply.
No, it's just
recommended to
making
the council.
Fine,
So we'll have an answer to that question by when
Thanks.
it comes to.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to add, Mr. Mayor, through
Go ahead.
through the agreement, all of these details would be captured through the agreement. So if there was issues with respect to the signage, we would ensure that that's captured prior to the agreement being brought forward to council.
Okay. And maybe even if there's a timing on their signage that we would say, you know, some flexibility of timing if that's required by the property owner perhaps. I don't know exactly how they're going to proceed on this, but within a period of X months that they would come back and change the signage, that kind of thing. Maybe they're seeking flexibility.
Right.
And that's why they're not doing it at this moment. So we look forward to further clarity at our council meeting.
That's great. And Mr. Mayor, I'd like it to be stated publicly, and my comments in no way are meant to reflect badly on the project. I'm excited to see it happen. It's
think we all are.
I just wanted to get some clarity on that.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll get that clarity at our next meeting. Anything further on this? Exciting facade improvement? Anything else? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried, and we look forward to that additional information. It has been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Durley, that Committee of the Whole receive the issue summary report for the zoning bylaw amendment site plan and plan of vacant land condominium application file AM 0511. And the committee direct the planning staff to prepare the draft conditions for approval of the plan of vacant land condominium and applicable zoning bylaw to be presented at the next available regular council meeting. Discussions, comments, questions? This certainly has been something that's been going on for a long time. Pleased to see that it's coming here. Some of it, I understand, has been held up by a particular endangered species. But pleased to see that they finally worked their way through that. Anything further on this? Go ahead, Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When the public meeting was held with respect to this property, and the developer put forward his plan, there was a significant number of individuals that presented at the public meeting and put forth a number of concerns with respect to buffering because of the depth of the backyards and them backing on an older neighborhood. There was some concern about the fact that the 3 units that are backing onto Hay Street were going to reflect a backyard facade, whereas the rest of that street will be front yards and, new houses across the street and all of that. So I just wondered if we could get clarity how those issues were going to be addressed to ensure that some of the concerns that were raised by the neighbors are being addressed by the developer.
Ms. Smythe?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, with respect to the buffering and the landscape, under the zone that it's being rezoned to, the amenity space or the buffering is a 25%. The proposal that's being brought forward is actually around 42%, so it's much more enhanced with respect to the landscaping and amenity area. So it addresses that concern. With respect to the the orientation of the buildings fronting Haste, yes, that was an issue through architectural design. They will be designed such that the buildings will represent as though they are the front facing of the building, but entering to the rear off of the private road into the residence. So through architectural details, it will kind of resemble and be compatible to what's there fronting on Haste.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Anything further? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried, and we look forward to that coming forward to council and that development proceeding. Thank you. The next item has been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Durley. The Committee of the Whole received the February 2014 Community Planning and Development Services Report for information. Are there any items that councillors would like to ask about that report? Nothing? No. I have a question about the Heritage Committee. Something about an inability to meet quorum and getting additional members. And I heard something about, maybe Councillor Durley can help or a member of staff, but that the chair of the committee was, maybe we just have some clarity on that. My understanding is that if the committee isn't populated, and I think we need to populate with additional members, that the quorum reduces to the number of actual members that are on the committee as opposed to the entire committee less those members. So, Councillor Durley, can you elaborate or clear that?
There's currently some confusion because the terms of membership on this committee were staggered, and some people that had expired had not been reappointed, and for that very reason, whether they are on the committee or not, and all of this information has been asked of the clerk, and the clerk is now seeking to clarify that. And at the time of the next meeting, and again, I sent an email out saying, are we having a meeting or not? And the whole issue was, they didn't know who actually was on the committee, and they were having difficulty getting people to come to that meeting, so they indicated that the quorum would be impossible to reach, and therefore they haven't done it. Since then, the clerk has been notified, and I'm sure that her capabilities will be second to none, and that this will be cleared up very shortly.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. We look forward to that being resolved in the next month, and I appreciate your information on that, and we can get the Heritage Committee meeting. Thank you. Anything further from the Community Planning and Development Services report? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. It's been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak, that Committee of the Whole received the February 2014 Fire and Bylaw Services report. Thank you, Chief, for your report. Any comments, questions? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. I should say, Chief, actually, there was a commendation that was received by my office, and it was to commend Councillor Durley and Mr. Genesee for some work that was done, some very fast work last week. So please, Councillor Durley, excellent work communicating with staff, and please thank Mr. Genesee for that safety issue regarding a stop sign, and so please thank staff for that. Great work in the bylaw. It's been done. The CEO's whispering in my ear saying it's been done, so thank you very much. Thanks for that work. The next item has been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor King. The Committee of the Whole received the February 2014 Recreation, Culture and Wellness Department report for information. Questions? Comments? There was something we were going to ask about. What was it? The Pro? Ms. Van Ravensway, can you update council on a recent award?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to inform council that our submission for the Isaac Real Memorial Skate Park to Parks and Recreation Ontario Excellence in Design award was received, and we were granted the award. So the end of March, we will be attending the Parks and Recreation Ontario conference, which was being hosted in Niagara Falls. So that's very exciting.
That's great news. Another design award. Of excellence.
That's
great news.
Just to add, that's our second award of excellence. Our first was our playgrounds. So very good.
Thank you, Ms. Van Ravensway. And perhaps you can communicate with members of the advisory committee for the skate park, and no doubt you've already communicated with the design engineer and the workers for that, but perhaps it'd be wise to communicate with the members of the committee. I'm sure they'll be very excited, especially as they move forward to plan the event in May.
Yes.
For kind of reopening and having an event for the skate park.
That's right. Along with the submission, we had to submit letters of support, and after receiving the information, those support letters, they were notified of the success of that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Always eager to celebrate successes. I'm just wondering if we could make some kind of a plaque that could be mounted on the front under the big sign in there. I think it would be worthy to remind the folks that use it and anybody that goes to see it that this is something to be very proud of, and that we had a great success in that. And I think that recognition of that would go a long way. So I'd appreciate it if that could happen.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think staff will take that under advisement and let us know when that's done. Thank you very much. Good idea, Councillor. Anything further? I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried, and that's regarding the Recreation, Culture and Wellness Department report. Thank you for that. Next item has been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor Durley. The Committee of the Whole received the February 2014 Clerk's Department report for information. There's those stats again. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for your ongoing work. Any questions? Clerk is always thinking ahead, talking about Monday, October 20th for our meeting, so thank you for thinking ahead for us. Anything? Are we ready for the question? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Papp, second by Councillor Lane. The Committee of the Whole received the issue summary report, creative problem solving update for information. Questions, comments regarding this? Mr. CEO, do you want to just touch on this briefly?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I felt it was appropriate to put this report together to give a bit of an update of the use of the creative problem-solving process to date. I provided a bit of the background to where we started and where we are today, and some of the successful applications of the process, how it's tied in and led to the creation of our performance management system, which has been highlighted in the Canadian Human Resource Monitor, which is, I think, a good sign that we're on the right track for creating innovative things, and this is one example. But also I wanted to point out to Council that there is a cost for the training that was required, the supplies that we used, and the facilitation of specific events like the strategic planning, for example, where Ambassador came in and helped us work through a specific issue. So I wanted to outline that and just compare the amount that we spent to date on the Ambassador expenses compared to what the budget has been for overall staff training. So I'm pleased to report that there's been a very positive impact. We're well within the budget that's been allocated for this type of training, and that not only have we been able to send 1 or 2 people out for training, but the entire staff has received training along with council and members of the public. So we're very, very pleased with that result. And the other benefit is that staff has received training of the same tools, not going off to their own thing, everybody coming back with a different piece of training or a different school of thought. We're all trained in the same school of thought and the same methodology. So it's been very successful, and I just wanted to point that out to council.
Thank you very much, Mr. CEO, for pointing that out to council. I think it is, just to echo some of your comments, it is exceptional, and we've certainly used it to find creative solutions to various problems, and we'll continue to use it. I've actually I spoke about this before and expanded it to the region just last week, talking about Ontario Works clients and working through that process as well. So it has many, many applications, and as is evidenced by your report, and certainly moving forward. One thing that was talked about, and I do recognize Councillor Durley in a sec here, and really this was Min, Ambassador, saying this, and one of the things was about ongoing research, and another idea was a potential for a Municipal World article, or something at the Association of Municipalities of Ontario conference, and I see this forming the basis of something like that. Can you just comment on that, please, Mr. CAO?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I think that it would be very valuable to share this information and share the success with other organizations. Interestingly, we had a call not that long ago after the HR Monitor article came out from Leduc, Alberta, because they wanted us to go and show us. They're looking at their own system, and they were very interested in ours, and they wanted us to share with them. So I will not be going back to Alberta.
Not anytime soon.
Not in the winter anyway.
So I'm sending Sarah Thompson in my place. But that's the type of thing that I think we all benefit. I know there's been a lot of times where I picked up Municipal World, and the most unexpected thing has led to a whole bunch of opportunities. So I think it would be a great idea to put together and submit an article to Municipal World. I think it would also be a great idea to look at things like FCM, AMO, and other conferences and meetings where we can make presentation and present the findings, and present a paper at a conference, for example, on this work that we've been doing, and share it with others, and hopefully build some success and some synergies around that. So that's certainly something that would be valuable.
Okay, thank you very much, and perhaps you can keep us up to speed on that moving forward. Thank you. Councillor Durley?
You've completely stole my thunder.
Oh, my goodness, I'm sorry.
That was going to be my suggestion, and in fact, since we are the pioneers in this field in the municipal government world, it's certainly worth sharing, and I think everybody out there would benefit from the successes that we've had, and we always like to celebrate successes, and this is one that we really should promote as much as we can. An article in Municipal World would be great. Attending AMO conference or FCM conference with a presentation or one of the concurrent workshops, I think would be valuable to share, and I think you'd have great attendance for folks coming just to see what it's all about, because it is certainly a valuable tool. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry to steal your thunder.
No problem.
Apologies. Anything further? Councillor Papp.
Well, just to build on this, you recall, we had a conversation with some of our friends at Brock University, and I did contact Dr. David Siegel, who's probably one of the leading profs in municipal government, and he also suggested, along with what you're saying, is that we consider some publications in the Canadian Journal of Public Administration, and you would possibly, we need to work through, is do an actual presentation to some of the fourth-year political science students on how this is taking place as part of their Canadian government studies. So I'll forward that on to you. He did respond, and I'll forward it to Min. And they are very, very fascinated and want to, how can I say, evolve it, particularly when it comes to public decision making, because that's the part that they are fascinated how that takes place in a public venue. So I apologize that I got it and I forgot about it, but I'll send it on to you with that information.
Thank you very much,
Okay?
Councillor.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Anything further? Great report. Thank you very much, Mr. CAO. And we look forward to more creative solutions coming forward using this process. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. And it has been moved by Councillor Kersey, second by Councillor Lane. The Committee of the Whole received the February 2014 Chief Administrative Officer's Report for information. Questions, comments?
CAO's
Councillor?
report.
Yes.
Very quickly, just kudos to you, to CEO. I saw that we're moving very positively with the Kunda Park issue. After following a number of, I presume that that's what that's about. And I'm very pleased to see that. I take it that it's a very positive interaction.
We're working very closely, Mr. Mayor, with the developer to try and resolve the issues. So
Right.
we've had some, I think, some positive discussions, and we're moving the issue forward to
Good.
resolution.
I'm very happy with that.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Durley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maple Acre Library. Administration is looking at direction from council as to what the next steps are. What are the next steps? We've been discussing this, and I don't think we're all the way through creative problem solving on that, but where are we going from here? I think it's important that we keep this going. I know there's a doodle request out there for different availabilities for another meeting. Just perhaps we can elaborate just to keep this on the radar screen.
Mr. CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I should probably clarify that. When I was writing this, I think subconsciously I was thinking, what the heck do I do next in a facilitation role? So I wanted to just put that in there. I understand the next step is to have more meetings, but I think it's when we're done, what do we do with it is sort of what my thinking was. So we go through the idea finding and the action plan, and what do we do with all of that? And there may be more than one issue that we need to tackle on this thing. So just a bit of I'm not looking for direction tonight, but just I guess a heads up to council that this is a fairly complex issue, and I think it's going to take a bit more work. So.
Okay, thank you. We look forward to that. Anything further on the CAO's report? Just a quick update on Peace Park, Mr. CAO?
Peace Park has been a bit of a problem child project for us lately. We had documents that were provided by our consultant go out for tender, and they weren't complete, so they did some additional work. Those documents went out. They're still not exactly clear on what some of the expectations are with regards to an RFP. So they have now indicated that they will be handling all of the contractor contact and providing information. The current RFP is scheduled to close in 2 weeks, I believe, and we're close to awarding that contract. And again, that still is on the premise that we would be doing phase one up to the start of bandshell, and then concluding the project after the bandshells stop for the season. So it's a two-phase project. How far and how much we get done in phase one, the amphitheater, that sort of thing will be really determined. I think partly now the weather's coming into play, and some of the excavation work that needs to be done. I mean, we need to get the frost out of the ground and some other issues that we're nowhere near today. So we're still moving ahead with that project.
Okay, and my recollection is from the budget process that actually has to come back
Yes.
to council. So the meeting, is that the 7th of April or the subsequent meeting?
I'll hold off on committing. It's been such a strange process that we'll get it here as soon as we're done with it, as soon as it's closed up. And I know that the Peace Park Committee also wants to be involved in reviewing the process, the tenders that come in, or the packages that come in.
Okay. Thank you very much for that update. Anything further on the CEO's report? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Thank you all. It has been moved by Councillor Lane, second by Councillor Kersey. This regular meeting of Committee of the Whole be adjourned until the next regular meeting scheduled for Monday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, unless sooner called by the mayor. Please wear green. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. We look forward to that meeting. Thank you.
Did you say drink beer?
Please wear green.
Oh.
Thank you.
I thought you said please drink beer.
Green beer?
Green beer. Yeah, that's fine.